I wanted to talk to you about the science behind influence, the science of persuasion. How do we influence people, but why does it work? We haven't got a lot of time, but I thought I'd just give you 5 quick examples of how and why influence works and how you can use it. And because we're science focused today, I'm even wearing my glasses in an attempt to look smart and intelligent. So let's start by the thing we always start with at the Colin James method, and that is audience analysis. So you must analyze your audience, whether that be from a demographic or a psychological point of view before you start. Analysis might be as simple as reading up on LinkedIn and understanding a little bit about them, but the analysis is important because if you don't understand to whom it is you're talking, well, how can you connect? How can you use words that will make sense to them? How can you talk about concepts that they will have some commonality with and therefore empathize with and therefore be interested in? So that analysis is critically important. The second thing is to think about credibility and ethos. So this is kind of rooted in, Aristotle's idea of ethos. If you display credibility, you are more likely to be persuasive. How do you display credibility? Well, you have to sometimes overtly articulate it. Sometimes it's self-evident. Now, if I were to say to you, Denzel Washington is going to give you a class on acting, I don't really need to establish a lot of credibility because that's already sitting in your mind. But for most of us, we don't have Denzel Washington's high profile. So we have to establish credibility ourselves. And we do that in the way we introduce ourselves. How we introduce ourselves must build credibility with the audience, must be relevant to them. That's really important. The third thing is emotional engagement. So if I think of emotional engagement and we look at things like the affect inclusion model as an example, that tells us that emotions are very significant when it comes to making decisions. Why are we talking to people? Well, it's to help them make decisions. When you talk to someone, you're always seeking to influence them, right? Otherwise, why did you open your mouth? And therefore, let's not run away from emotion. Now, I'm not saying you laugh and you cry and you yell and you scream, but you think about the context of your communication. And for example, if you're passionate about something and you want someone else to be passionate about it, well, you show the passion. And that doesn't necessarily mean you thump the table. Well, maybe it does. I don't know. It depends on the context and the situation that you're in. But passion can be shown by simple things like the way you modulate your voice or the way you use your facial expressions when you're talking to people. So the fourth thing is social proof and conformity. When we look at, there's any number of conformity experiments that have been done that tell us people like to be with people like them or like to conform with the group or like to do what the right thing is seen to be by the group. I remember I was in a meeting many years ago. I reckon I was in my mid-20s, and the manager of the large office that I was working in gave us no context, and he said, right, I'm going to read out some names and I want every single person whose name I read out to go and stand over there. Everyone else remain where you are. And here's what happened psychologically to me and to everyone in that group, because we talked about it afterwards. As he read out each name and said move over, no one wanted to have their name read out because they didn't know what they were being singled out for, until it got to a point where 50% or more of the people had their name read out. Then everyone was like, oh wow, I want to have my name read out because I just want to be with the most people because I don't know what's about to happen, but I figure I can't be in too much trouble if I'm in the group that's got the most people in it. So that's exactly how I know that's how I felt. So that's the science of conformity. And how does that apply to our communication? Well, we use stories to provide proof points. So if we're wanting to help someone make a decision, we help them understand that other people have made that decision and it has worked for them. That's how that works. The fifth and final thing I wanted to discuss when it comes to the science of persuasion, reciprocity. Now, someone you might be interested in looking at is Robert Cialdini. He has done a lot of work around persuasion, but his rule of reciprocity suggests that we are more likely to do something for someone if they do something for us. So if you as a communicator are seen to be giving something, you are more likely to receive something in return if that's what you want. And normally for us as communicators, what does that mean? It means we want people to feel a certain way, think a certain way, do things and commit to things after we talk to them, because there's some kind of influence we're trying to exert over them, whether it's to understand a new idea, a new way of thinking, a new way of working, who knows? So there we have it. 5 science-based persuasion techniques that you can use to influence your audiences in a good and, of course, ethical way.